An original OFM podcast.
All right, so Wednesday afternoons means it's time for the Wings of Change here on OFM, and we have two people that have joined us here in studio. Good afternoon, Michelle.
Good afternoon, Darren.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you, and thank you for inviting us.
Well, thanks for taking the trouble to come through to our studio. You live in Bloemfontein, do you?
Yes, we're in Bloemfontein.
All right. And with you is young Elih.
Hello.
Hello, Elih. How are you doing, buddy?
Fine. Thank you.
That's good. It's nice to have you here as well. And welcome to the Wings of Change. Elih was just like, I'll say how's it and tell you how I am, and that's it. I'm going to sit and listen for the rest of it. But as I said earlier, it's a story that is actually close to my heart, which you might not be aware of. But just tell us, Michelle, the story of Elih. I am pronouncing it correctly, right?
Yes,
it is Elih.
Yeah,
okay.
It is Elih. Elih was 20 months old when I found him in the pool. I didn't see him for a couple of minutes, and when I went looking for him, he was on the surface of the pool. I had a friend with me at that stage, and I got him out the pool. She started with CPR. I went and phoned the ambulance, and in that time I ran with him to the street. He was unconscious and waiting for the ambulance, and a guy that we didn't know stopped with a bakkie and loaded us on the back of the bakkie and drove us to the hospital. And the doctor that came down was our pediatrician, quite incidentally, and Elih never regained consciousness, and he was put on life support and basically kept on it in a semi-coma so that his lungs could clear and the swelling in his brain could subside.
That has got to be one of the most, I mean, there are so many, but that's got to be the most horrific thing that you went through, because you just never know when something like this is going to happen. For anyone that's got not just a swimming pool, if you don't have a net on it, put it on. And if you have any body of water there, it is so dangerous. You think it's okay, and then you look again, and this can happen. So before you carry on with the story, it's just to make people aware that especially young kids at that age. My boy was 2 going on 3 when this happened, and it was just the most horrific thing, seeing that little body lying in that pool of water. So please take care wherever you are. If there's any body of water, make sure it's either sealed or covered. Sorry, Michelle, carry on. So you were at the hospital. And
yeah, okay. And Elih was then kept under sedation for 4 days. In that time, they did the brain tests and all that, and they were convinced that he would be all right when he woke up. I still had to bring him toys to the hospital so that we could keep him busy, because he had to stay for a little while longer. And when they took him off the sedation, he would giggle because his tummy would gurgle. And it was great signs. And he would say, Aina and Mama and thirsty. And the more he woke up, the less he said. And by the time that he had woken up completely, he was in total spasms. His little eyes were empty, and we feared for the absolute worst. They then did a brain scan, which showed no damage whatsoever. And by the time we left there after 10 days, the spasms were under control, but Elih couldn't even sit. He couldn't crawl. He couldn't hold his bottle. He had to learn each and every baby step from the beginning again. And it came through that there was really no brain damage. They did the brain scan again after 6 months, and he just had to, his brain was wiped. He had to learn everything from anew again. And the last thing that came back was his speech, and Elih still struggles with his speech. He speaks very unclearly, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with his normal riding a bike, swimming for a swimming team at this stage, anything like that. He's a total normal little boy.
All right. So tell us about Edu Blocks.
All right. Elih went to a normal school until grade 5, and at that stage they felt that Elih was struggling at school too much and he needed too much attention. We then had him tested, and because there is not a facility in Bloemfontein for children with learning disabilities, he was put in a school for mentally disabled children, and he was there for 3 years. In that time, I prayed really hard for some other opportunity for him to get out of there, and this came in the sense of EduBlocks, which is a learning facility that helps children with learning disabilities, specifically with reading, with comprehension, and with maths. we enrolled Eli in there, and you basically have a year contract. So it's twice a week that they go and they do special exercises with him, and it had an immense effect with Eli. It was fantastic. So much so that we could actually enroll him in a homeschooling system with I Am Academy in Bloemfontein. And he started there in June, which was absolutely wonderful, and I've got my child back again. He is functioning like a real darn teenager.
Here we go. All right. Most of that's good, but sometimes also not so good. When they become teenagers, they can also become a handful as well.
Definitely.
But he looks like a really, really good kid and come through so much after that horrific experience at the age of 20 months. So let's talk about the costs, because in your mail you said that obviously funds with medical aid were depleted, which is understandable, right, with all the treatment that he had to get.
Yeah. Darren, it's actually very sad, because the one thing that is actually helping him catch up, the cost is 993 Rand per month. And with him starting at a new school, not really a school, I may not call it a school, it's a center for learning.
Institution, yeah.
So we just couldn't make that in a month. We had to unfortunately cancel the EduBlocks. They were very gracious to give us exercises that we're doing with Eli at home, but it's just not the same. He's not getting the know-how and the growth that he needs in order to really catch up faster.
Okay. So at the moment he's not with EduBlocks, but they are helping out with some exercises and stuff. Is that the status right now?
That is it, yes.
All right. And you need him to go back there and complete his course?
Yes, I do, please.
All right. Obviously the funds, medical aid depleted, and as you said, you in your mail couldn't afford the 993 Rand that was required for the next 18 months to get him back to EduBlocks.
Yes, it's a 2-year
So Michelle,
course.
2 year. Okay, so listen, what we're going to do for you from the Wings of Change here at OFM is sort that out for you. So for the next 18 months, we will cover the 993 Rand per month so that Eli can get back to EduBlocks. And then when he's finished that course, he can come here and he can read the sport or the news with us on the show.
Darren, I've actually, since yesterday, I've been trying to get myself emotionally sorted out so that I won't freaking bore my eyes out here. And I just wrote down a little paragraph that I just want to read, because if I'm going to try to say it without it, it might not work. So if you would please just give me a chance. Okay, firstly, as a family, we really want to thank Wings of Change for the fantastic opportunity you're giving us. Thank you so much for that. Every day, sorry for my voice, every day I'm reminded that at one moment of not paying attention to where Eli was, he suffered this. But at the same time, I'm reminded that God uses even the worst tragic situations to perform miracles and remind us that He is in control. When we are at wit's end and don't know where or what next, He opens doors and presents possibilities and assistances through opportunities and individuals. And you guys are really our largest wonderful blessing. Thank you very, very much for that. And stop crying, Zal.
Sorry, I can't help crying.
So thank you very much, really.
It is absolutely our pleasure to be able to help Eli out. He's a wonderful young kid, and we wish him all the best with his continued rehabilitation with his reading, and to be able to, as you say, he's a normal little boy. Having a look at him, he's such a good little kid. And let's sort the reading out. 17,874 Rand is what you need, and that is what we are going to pay to EduBlocks from the Wings of Change. Thank you so much for taking the time to bring Eli here and for you coming here, and thank you for letting us know via the Wings of Change email address.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, team. Thank you very much.
If you have a situation, doesn't have to be like Michelle's story, it can be anything, where you are in a situation where you are just at your wit's end and don't know which way to turn financially, might be a medical problem and you need help. The only way we'll know about it is if you let us know. So send us an email. That email address is wings with a Z. Please remember the Z, wings with a Z at ofm.co.za. Every Wednesday.
Just Plain Drive. Weekdays 4 to 7 p.m. Only on OFM. The sound of your life. An original OFM podcast.